How we doing, Wannabes listeners? We're going to keep it nice and short today. I just got back from a work trip. Ashley's upstairs doing her thing. Don't have my private studio like I normally like, so we'll save all the me stuff for later, maybe when I actually enter a tournament. But look, we have Jmook on. We go way back. We talk about it. I don't think he needs much of an intro, but of course, for people who are listening back, just to timestamp it, we recorded this, I think, December 2nd, something like that, of 2023. And he's currently with FlyQuest. Earlier this year, he won Genesis 9 and Collision 2023. And then kind of took a bit of a chill year as things started to come together and he settled into his new role as a top player. We cover all this. I don't want to drag on for too long. If you like the podcast, give us a like. Come over to the Discord. We talk about each episode with our active core group of guys, and we're just enjoying the process. We're gonna have more people on. We're gonna do our thing. Wannabes are back. Fans are eating. Enjoy the episode. This is my boy Jake, and see you next time. Jake, how you doing, man?
My man, good to be on after a what is this? A 4-year gap from the last one?
Yeah, I was listening to it today from July 2019. I talked to you a bit about how it's very funny hearing the wins you had at the time and how the list was like three wins long or something. And the other thing that was funny is how much I talked compared to you on an interview that should have been about you. So I'm hoping we'll turn that around, and I don't know, actually touch on some Origin stuff. There's a lot of questions I have, but the first one, actually, let's just start off with like some QA off the rip.
Yeah.
You're moving to California soon. Are you excited?
I am.
What are you excited about in your move to California?
Well, first off, there are so many things. One, I mean, this will be my first time being off on my own. I mean, I went to college. I went to I went to a college in my hometown, but I never got to have like the dorm experience of like, moving away, living in a dorm at college. I've kind of just been home my whole life in Binghamton without having the the feeling of being on your own and handling your, own responsibilities. So I'm looking forward to that, having my own space and my own time, figuring out what I want as an individual, and and also just to further my career, because I'll be near the FlyQuest headquarters. It'll be much easier to do content, to work with Pew Pew, who is my manager now at FlyQuest. So it's going to help get the ball rolling, and I'm very excited to see how I can do it from here.
Sounds exciting, man. I know that Kadoran lives out there. Are you going to be close with him, like physically?
So he lives in San Diego. The FlyQuest headquarters, they're based in LA. So it's a
like an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, it's not super. It's not a long drive, but yeah, I am planning to visit Kadoran as well as go to all the locals such as Verdugo. Integrate myself into the SoCal scene, and yeah, super stoked. I can't express how excited I am. This is like a new chapter in my life that I've been needing for a long time, and the fact that I'm being able to do that through the medium of Smash, a game that I've been playing my entire life, it's the dream, man. I try and show gratitude towards the things the opportunities that have been coming my way.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot to be gracious about. You have a lot to kind of be proud of, because I don't know, there's not many people that have earned. Well, I think everyone's earned their spot, but you sure as hell have as well. Some of the takeaways I had from our first conversation was coming up from a scene that was really sparse, and something that kept being said was like you had to just make your own opportunities. And so your career has been so much of a like pull yourself up from your bootstraps situation, getting good at the game and then getting yourself out there. How do you feel everything's come together? Like, Well, let's take a step back. I want to talk about
Yeah.
Genesis 8.
Sure.
You must have had some sort of goal or expectation going into it. You were unsponsored, but take me through, like, leading up to that tournament, what was going through your mind. Just walk me through Genesis 8 from your perspective.
Yeah, man. So honestly, with how, I mean, looking back with, after Genesis 8, it's really interesting to see how things change so drastically, and then looking at my mentality going into it. So Genesis 8, for me, people were assuming that I was practicing, grinding, like really, really trying to show up and do my absolute best. But to be honest, that couldn't have been further from the truth. What was actually going on was that I was still in school. I was working at Starbucks. I was working like 30, 35 hours a week, taking 6 classes. And so Melee to me was like the thing I would do after my 9 to 5 or after class. I would hop on Unranked or, play with you guys, play with my friends for a little bit. So Melee kept me, it satisfied the competitive side of me, as well as, it's keep in touch with friends on Discord, because of COVID, of course. So leading up to Genesis, Melee was kind of like, I still played, right? Melee is not, I think the longest break I've ever taken from the game since I started in 2014 was probably around a month. So Melee has always been in my life in some capacity, whether I'm playing or not. So leading up to Genesis, I was, working at Starbucks, taking classes. I was finishing up pretty much my last semester of school, and I actually had my flight paid for by, I believe, Olsen Melee, and so that was a huge incentive for me to go. I really, really wanted to go. It was my first time traveling by myself, because I went to Smash World Tour in the December 2021. Before then, I went with my brother. So in that sense, like, that was kind of me traveling by myself. But Genesis 8 was like the actual genesis of me traveling and doing something for myself on my own terms. And it's kind of, looking back, it's freaky how I was able to make the most of it, and not just in Melee, but just finding myself as a person through a competitive format.
Yeah, and I mean, the second place speaks for itself. It was a insane run from I don't know how much you saw. I don't know if we recorded any of this of what the Discord was doing during that run, but it was a complete fiesta. We were losing our shit, just win after win, watching you make the run. So I think from an outsider perspective, someone who even someone not too close, but maybe knew you from being the king of Upstate for as long as you were, we all knew you had a run in you. And I think top 8 would have been a like, oh shit, he did it sort of thing. But it's really hard to put into perspective like how good you are when you're not going to these huge tournaments all the time and really competing with the best players. So it really reaffirmed and kind of recalibrated a lot of our expectations of how good of a player you were. And I can only imagine it was a kind of wake up call of how good you actually are at this game.
Yeah, it was kind of a recalibration of my own expectations of myself too, because I was looking to show up, and if I made top 64, I'm like, let's go. I've never gotten top 64 at a major, let alone
so funny.
second at a super major. So yeah, even just making top 8, it's really funny too, because I look back and I specifically remember watching Genesis 3, Mango versus Armada Grand Finals. My mom's on the couch, I have it on in the living room, and I look at the San Jose, the theater, and I look at that venue, and I'm like, man, what a dream it would be to just play on that stage. Because I'm a musician. I love sounds, acoustics, performing in a large space with their music, like cello or guitar. And I'm like, man, what a feeling it must be to just go up there and just press something on the controller and have have it just go boom, like that bass. You can feel it in your chest. Every single action you take, there's it reverberates throughout the space. Like you're filling the air with with your inputs in a weird way. It sounds super cliche, but that was like my romanticized view of it. So even back then, 2015, I was like, I told my mom, I was like someday I would love to just have that opportunity to do that. So, super cool that I got to do that in the way that I did. Like I said, even making top 8 at Genesis would have been enough for me. So, I was kind of surprising myself throughout the run as it kept going.
Yeah, and then you were sort of thrown into this world that you've been participating in, but kind of on the outskirts, right? Like you've been competing, you've been actively playing and improving, but you've also been, watching Mango and watching top 8s and being a fan. And
Yeah.
Now you are one of those players, and it's still pretty new, especially compared to Mango and Hungry Box and other players. And now it's sort of like, you and Cody are the two newest kind of faces coming up as the like top players in the world, at least in the relative to when you guys started or became good. But you know, as the freshest face, like how it's been almost 2 years now since that Genesis.
Almost 2 years. Yeah.
And it seems, for not to lead the conversation too much, but it seems to me that you're sort of finding comfort into it, like within the last couple months, even. Like it's been a transition, but you seem to be kind of finding your own now.
I am, yes. So the way I look at it, right, like, so I try not to compare my my journey or story to the other players, but it almost feels like I had the inverse experience of most top players, where, like, so let's take Amsa for instance. Amsa, it took him, Big House, right? Big House 10. It took him 10 years to win a super major, right? He's been grinding since, he was at Kings of Cali 3, which I believe was 2013. So his growth was very linear. It was gradual, and there's one purpose, and he was just in it to win it. Melee became his life, and after 10 years, he finally made that dream come true. For me, it was kind of like, I just got second at a super major. I guess I'm going to Summit. I guess this org FlyQuest wants to sponsor me. I guess I'm just like a top player now. Like, it was all so sudden, and I believe the hardest part of that was adjusting to the recognition, the responsibilities, the status of that, when it was really just kind of all thrown at me at once. And it was really hard to digest all of that one at a time, because I simply just wanted to show up and play my best while trying to, I guess, understand the gravity of what that, of how drastic things changed for me, all because of one tournament performance, So yeah, I would say that overall my journey has been it was sudden, and I think right now, like, I've already proved I've proved I can win the super major. I proved that I can contest myself against the best of the best. But now I think the next chapter, the next part of my experience here is, like, how do I last as a player, as a community figure for the scene? I've already proved I can win. I've already proved that. So now, then there's the end what? Like, and then what? And I think this year that's kind of been the theme, after winning Genesis and then winning Collision. That's a lot to take in. And I felt like I've discussed this in like prior streams, but it felt like I was gearing up. I was preparing myself for the high of winning, but I wasn't preparing myself for the low that would follow. The low of being like, was that it for me? Is this as good as it gets for me? Is this it? Is it over? Like, what else do I have to prove? What else can I do? So yeah, sorry to spill, but that's kind of been my perspective on it as of late. And I think within the past, honestly, month or so, my overall view has changed into a more positive light.
Well, it's a lot to adjust to, and there's always going to be a kind of a peak and a valley with winning something so tremendous and there's a lot of emotions that come with that, a lot of expectations. It's all stuff you said, but it's like it's all extremely understandable. That I think there was speculation during the year, and I don't want to look into like Reddit comments or people that don't really know what's going on, but there was sort of this attitude of like, it's been a couple months. Jmook doesn't seem to be taking the game as serious, and that's nonsense. First off, I think you have the same approach to the game as you kind of always have. It's just that you have to adapt that approach to your new status. It's not about the game. That's the difficulty doesn't feel like it's with the game itself and playing the game. It's with everything around it that is completely like mysterious and weird. Well, what does it mean to have a career as a Melee player? Am I off base here, or is that sort of?
No, it's totally, you're totally on, because my drive, like I said, I won the Super Major. My drive had to change because my drive was to win the Super Major. My drive was to finally win a tournament after placing second over and over for pretty much all of 2022. My drive had to change because I already proved I can win a Super Major. Now my source of wanting to keep playing the game had to not change, but redirect in a way that keeps me mentally invested, emotionally invested in the game. And it's still, like you said, yeah. Melee to me, like my relationship with Melee has not changed at all. It's not that I'm falling out of love with the game. It's that I'm slowly finding I'm finding something new. I'm trying to reinvent myself a little bit in terms of how I want to approach this.
Yeah, from my perspective of watching you, like you come in, you play games with, you play a lot with Agent, you play some with like myself and Justin and other guys a bit less, and Bills. Agent and Bills are the two I see you play in Discord as like, good, solid sessions. And it's really interesting to me, the approach you have, where it feels like, you definitely still have your infamous like all-nighter with Zane. You definitely play everyone that's really good. You have your other top player sessions, but you seem to really enjoy playing and improving with anyone, with the homies. And so I'm curious what if you've thought about that as do you think that's a strength of yours? Do you think that keeps you enjoying the game and improving more sustainably, or is that something that you think is just what you do and you don't think about it much at all?
For me, it's like Melee is Melee, and yes, if you're constantly playing people worse than you, then you are going to develop bad habits that will just not work against your field. But for me, it's like Melee has always it's always been about the boys, dude. It's why I got into this game. Like literally the whole reason the whole reason why I wanted to get good in the first place was to just shut my friends up, just like everyone else. Like everyone wanted to, like, your friends are talking shit, and you're slowly, like, after watching the doc, you pick up a character, they're talking shit, you want to prove them wrong. And even as like a 15-year-old kid, I had that like drive in me, because as a young lad. I wasn't a very aggressive person. I was very quiet. I was shy. I was reserved, and I couldn't really defend myself in a physical, confrontational way. So, like, what are my other options? Oh, I could just get really, really good at this game and kind of fight my way through there and discover myself through competition, while also, shutting my friends up a little bit. And I think I hold that near and dear, and I think to this day, I think that's why I still continue to play with my friends and you guys, because like you guys were kind of the reason why I got good in the first place.
Yeah, I want to talk about this, your true like year one origin story. You mentioned kind of casually off the mic before that you were getting your ass kicked and you wanted to, you said it just now, you want to shut people up, you want to shut up your boys. Do you want to give the specifics who these friends were and kind of what that process looked like?
Yeah. It's funny because at the time I was a freshman in high school. I started meeting all these kids because growing up, I have an older brother. He's like 8-9 years older than me. Even growing up playing Smash as a kid, I was constantly surrounded by, older kids. So I was the little brother of the group. I really wanted to like beat them or like, find ways to make them mad, as any young kid does. Little brother syndrome, if you call it that. But yeah, I met some of the first people I met at my first tournament was my boy Patches, who's been my best friend ever since. I met him at my first tournament, and by meeting him, I got to meet his friend group, who went to a different school. They were like 10 minutes away, and after that, that was kind of it for me. That was like when I started to, I started to hang out with them. And granted, they were a few years older, like 3 to 4 years older than me, so I was still very young. I was 14, and these are like high schoolers going into college. So, I kind of had to, find my voice. And at the time, like I said, I was very quiet. I was not, I did not like starting conflict. I did not, start fights. And so I felt like if I couldn't talk, if I can't stand up for myself, I might as well stand up for myself through a game that I've loved since I was a kid.
Yeah, it's self-expression in the most
Mm-hmm.
in what's the word for it?
Spiteful way.
Yeah, spiteful.
Oh yeah,
petty.
and there is a bit of spite to that, And I think everyone, growing up, like Mario Party, stories. There's so much. Everyone has Mario Party lore with their friends growing up,
Right. Well, I don't want to. I'm thinking about my time playing Mario Party in college, and you're making me tear up a little bit. It's best moments of my life. I'm thinking about you as an individual here because getting to know you. I mean, you're not hiding much, right? You really are a somewhat reserved, definitely polite, definitely kind person. And I think there's this really interesting persona that gets absorbed by people, or people really put on this sort of angelic, like you're a human just like everyone else.
Of course.
And as I've gotten to know you more, and especially when like we all became like real adults. I think I met you when you were a teenager still. I have a few years on you myself, but like once we all kind of really got to know each other, it's like, oh, this guy, has that dog in him as well. Like being spiteful, maybe there's definitely a better word for it, but wanting to win, being competitive, and being like having a little bit of fuck you energy inside is, I think, an essential part of being a competitor. I don't know if there's any top player that doesn't have a bit of that. It's the championship mindset. So, I just wanted to talk shit about you to you. Not really, but
yeah, go ahead. It's your pod. Yeah.
No,
talk your ish.
But
your shit.
To actually just to make it clear to listeners that like, yeah, he's definitely who he shows himself to be, but he's good at Melee because he wants to beat you. Like you, Jake, want to beat the person's ass who you are playing. And I think you said this maybe when you loosened up, you had a few drinks or something, that you get a kick out of when you play people and they get frustrated. Is that true? Do you have a bit of like, do you like when your opponent gets tilted after you force stock them or something like that?
I think it makes it a hell of a lot easier. I'll admit that. And I think part of that stems from, like I said, wanting to beat my older brother and his friends who were older than me at the time. Like there's a little bit of that energy that still carries, and I really do believe that that's kind of why I like gravitated towards like a Melee scene with all these older people. Not to like try and like, not that I wanted to make people feel bad about themselves or rage or like find that funny. It was more so like I did this, and that if they're frustrated or if they're upset, like that's on them. I'm just 100% me in the zone. And, not to say that I'm playing Melee to get that reaction out of people, but when that does happen, you can't help but feel like, oh, I won. Like I've gotten in their head, and this is it. Like GG's.
Well, this actually brings me to a question from our Discord, which is, I'll try to package it into a way that will flow. But we're talking a bit about salt, right? Not capital S, the player salt, but like being salty in game and being tilted and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
You, like everyone else, we've all experienced this. We've all been salty, but do you have strategies to kind of work around it? Because you don't seem to be someone that gets salty, that gets uh like physically, we don't see it on your person. Um, is that an intentional thing? Is that just who you are? And you already mentioned, like, when the other player is salty. So what's your
Mhm.
kind of general philosophy around this phenomenon?
Well, I'll start out by saying like my disposition is that on average I'm pretty agreeable as a person. Like I said, I'm not super argumentative. I'm not very opinionated. That could stem from a lack of confidence, whatever you can take it. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. We're talking about
Being salty.
being salty. Yeah. So obviously, everyone gets frustrated. I get frustrated. I get mad. And some people, they take it out by throwing their controller. Other people take it out by um imploding or by walking away and then taking like 10 shots at the bar later. Like we all have our different ways, our different vices of coping with of coping with negative results or yeah, negative results. And personally, I feel like people praise me for oh, you look so composed on stage, or like I love that you meditate, or your posture. It's like those, like all of those things are simply tools that I've used throughout the years to help overcome those feelings of frustration, and it helps mitigate. It's like a combination, like several different like mitigation strategies that I've used over the years since I was 15, 16 that have helped.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, everyone has, like, you can't be a melee player without having a little bit of fuck you energy, a little bit of like I want to prove that I can, beat you not only by playing the best of my ability, but also bending my will onto you. And I think that's totally present. Like ego itself is it's impossible to eliminate ego. What matters is your how you attach yourself to your identity. And if it's too much, if you have too much of that fuck you energy, then the lows are gonna be really low, the highs are gonna be high, and you might plateau, or you might not be as consistent as other players who are, a lot more understanding of their flaws or shortcomings mentally.
I couldn't agree more. It always comes up with my own relationship with the game. It's always difficult to make Melee the thing I'm most proud of. One, because it's like, I'm a mid level. I'm like a local PR player, and there's a lot to be proud of there, and I'm not
Mhm.
diminishing that because that is an achievement. Um, but there's always a tricky balance with um kind of stacking yourself up against people. Comparing is definitely a difficult thing to maneuver successfully. You should really be avoiding, like, I'm better than this person and being too focused on that. But
Mhm.
there's also a bit of a of a pendulum swing that could really fuck you up, where if you are not believing in yourself, if you don't grant yourself the will to win. I think that's a Scar coined term.
Mhm.
Everything's a Scar coined term, but
Mhm.
you need to have both. You need to be confident in yourself, but you can't let it take over your entire motivation, right? Like,
Mhm.
do you think this is something you've had to deal with since becoming a literal world champion? Like, you've been to the top, and this has got to be something that's recently in your mind since then.
Yeah. And that has been one of those things, like I said, that has been hard to adjust to. The pressure and the expectations of, oh, so he's just gonna be doing this all the time, right?
Mm.
And oh wait, no, he's actually like, you know, just getting top eights. He's dropping sets to players. Um, yeah, totally. There's totally some new added pressure of like, after proving I can win a super major, just seeing if I can hold myself up against the rest of the field and maintain that level of play. And that's been a whole nother journey throughout the year. And I think the lows of this year and the slumps that I had have, I would definitely say that it's been affecting me at least a little bit mentally. It's been very, you know, there's been some dark times throughout the year where I, was starting to believe in my doubts, starting to be like, maybe I don't like this. Maybe like if I truly loved this game, I would pull myself out of these thoughts. I would, if I truly wanted to do this, or if I truly wanted to be a Melee player, I wouldn't have to worry about, I wouldn't, I wouldn't entertain these kind of negative thoughts. But I think as of late, since I've had the little slumpish period and the highs, I think I'm starting to fully understand myself in my lightest light and my darkest shadows. And that's kind of why I love Melees, because I've learned so much about myself as a person. And yeah, I would say that part of my journey this year has been to find strategies to avoid those thoughts, or to avoid interacting with negative energy, and focus on the positives that are coming my way.
Do you want to share any of these strategies, or kind of dig into what that what it takes to kind of, or not what it takes, because I don't want you to have the responsibility of telling everyone how to get out of their lowest points, right? But what did you do to kind of start that transition, or to just make yourself feel better in any capacity? What does that look like to you?
I tried to detach myself from public opinion or the majority consensus on what's been happening with me in particular. Some people are like, "Oh, Jmook washed?" Question mark. Everyone says that. Any player that loses a set, people are typing on Twitter or Twitch, Reddit, or whatever. I don't use Reddit personally. Actually, I always Reddit, like, what's the thing? I use, well, like, when you really want to find someone out, you type in blah 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 and then search Reddit at the end and go to Google.
Right.
That's yeah. But yeah, people on Reddit, Twitch chat, people come to conclusions fairly fast, and I think that's simply because we're starved of a narrative. And I think that the second we have, two sets of data or three sets that kind of suggests a narrative, then I feel like a lot of people are, I think Twitter as a space is very reactionary. And I don't know how Reddit varies from that, but I would say that overall I've been trying to detach myself from that and focus on what's actually been going on with myself. And it's also just not healthy. I believe I was talking to Zane about this like early on in the year after Collision. And I was asking him how how do you maintain yourself as a top player in a positive way despite getting negative feedback? And something that he told me was that it's impossible. Like the thing about Melee compared to like League, where everyone's like, you'll find hate comments anywhere. People will send you nasty things. He said the thing about Melee is that it's so grassroots that it's pretty much impossible to avoid negative. Like, you're always going to be susceptible to receiving positive and negative feedback because of how grassroots it is.
Right.
Especially if you actively search for it. So, after he told me that, I started to realize that, okay, well, there's no, like, I don't have to prove to every single person in the Melee scene that I'm capable. Like, there's going to be haters. There's going to be people that, are ride or die, stand by me. And then there's people that no matter what I do, they just, like, for some fundamental reason, they just do not like me as a person, as a player. And like, fuck that. I don't want to, like, I think that takes up way too much mental space and stress to, try and win people over like that. And I don't think it's what I should be doing. I don't think it's necessarily healthy. So, and it's also kind of why I've been, on stream, I've been a lot more open. I've been, trying to show people that I'm not just like the health posture guy, but it's like, I can get down. Like I'm admit, like, at tournaments, people are like, "Yo, Jmook, like, you want to hit this blunt?" I'm like, Like, dude, I'm a melee player, goddamn. Yeah, of course. Of course, of course, like who do you think I am? You think I'm just some stale piece of white bread? Like, yeah, let me take a hit.
Right.
You know? Let me take that hit. So, I think as of late I'm starting to open up a little bit more and understand that like no matter what I do, there's always going to be people that dislike me, and yeah, I'm just trying to be unapologetically myself, and the people who have supported me since the beginning, they'll stick around, and the haters, they can spend their time being negative, and we'll see if that we'll see how that works out for them.
Right. Yeah. It's finding your voice and finding your power a bit where, you can control your own narrative way stronger than any individual comment on Reddit. It's like if you're kind of just playing the game the way you used to, where you would play the homies, you would watch sets and learn from other sheiks and just improve your game and do your thing, then combine that with actively seeking other people's opinions, then you're just going to be completely like at the will of other people, right? Just beholden to their opinions, and I think it's a great lesson to learn, and probably one that it was inevitable. Like that is some shit that just how else are you supposed to figure that out than just like being thrown to the wolves? You're a top player now. Everyone's talking about you. Everyone wants a piece of you. Everyone has an opinion on what you do and who you are. And now it's like navigate this. And it's really cool to see that the way out is through, that it's sort of like just taking it head on and be like, no, I'm here. Like I'm going to do my thing, and I'm probably definitely going to win again. It's hard as fuck to just choose when you're gonna win, but you did it back to back, so like you could do it pretty much
it's
at any point. Of course it is, and
it's in anyone who cares about the game enough.
And so where my brain goes, and as a viewer more than a friend, is just like, yeah, what is the kind of long term like Jmook experience look like? I love your stream. I think. It's like 80% your music, to be honest. I think having good music on your stream is is what makes or breaks. Or I don't know. Yeah. Magi is one of my favorite players, but those Twitch alerts kind of I can't really do it for too long.
To each his own.
It's definitely a viable strat. Doesn't really say much about her, but I think it's really cool seeing you kind of as you get more comfortable streaming, as you make the commitment to move to California, kind of diving headfirst into the Melee career. It still feels like you are exploring and kind of experimenting and figuring out like what the hell you even want to do. Like what does the first like 3 to 6 months look like as or not first, I should say the next. Like, what does 2024 look like for your career, and where's it going?
It's only going up, baby.
Okay, that can't be the only answer.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
Next question. No, dude. Honestly, like I said, it's a new chapter. I'm gonna be on my own. Be out in LA. I'm gonna be West Coast. I'm gonna be left to my own devices. I really, really need this to happen to me. I've been pushing it back for a while because, LA is expensive. I've been trying to save up money. I wanted to be sure that once I move, I'm exactly where I need to be mentally, physically, on top of my shit. So yeah, this next like 3 to 6 months, going to next year is kind of my, I guess, growth into becoming, I'm still a boy at heart. I'm living at home. I'm very, very lucky to have, to be able to live here and do what I do as a profession. But I'm looking to become like, I think this Melee experience as a professional player, traveling around, discovering myself, has kind of been my journey becoming a man. I mean, just being able to be responsible for my for all of my conflicts and problems, and learning how to problem solve on my own. And I think I'm gonna find a lot of power in that, and I think there's only good things to come from that when you start having inner confidence and whatever life throws at you. Because I know it's not gonna be all sunshine and rainbows out there. Shit's gonna happen, but I hope that when it does, I'm gonna step up.
Hell yeah, that is the fucking attitude I want to hear, man. And that's, I like that that's the reason you are pushing it back, because it's the move. Like literally, it's the move. You are moving out. That is the move. And it is not something to just do flippantly, like, oh yeah, I'm with the sponsor. Like, let's just do it. Like, they'll take care of everything. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
no, you're taking full ownership of it, and you're saying like, nah, it wasn't quite the time. Like I said, it was the time. I take it back. Not quite it. I think there is a lot of power in that, and I'm hearing it from you. I know what it's like when you are not sure about something. I've heard you speak about enough career moves to know like the difference between something you're iffy about and something you're a little more shaky on. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love hearing you talk about this, and this might not be the best place to announce something you have a project or anything like that. I'd be happy if you did. I break some news, but I understand you're beholden to sponsors, so we could breeze past that.
Some of the pod, right?
Go on.
Yeah. So to our lovely wannabe viewers, Kadord and I are going to be starting a monthly podcast starting very soon. We are currently in the works of filming one this next weekend. I'm not sure when this will be released, but yeah, expect a monthly rendition. It'll be uploaded to my channel. And honestly, I also think this is exactly what I need to, because people want to know like what I fucking think about the game. Like I don't really compare myself to like other Sheiks like Spark. Spark's incredible with his Metafy, his guides, his coaching. He can digest and break down things into words, put Sheik and Melee into words. That's very understandable for players of all levels. I've personally struggled with that, and I think that's because I've simply just haven't tried it yet, And I think this podcast will be a space for me to actually figure out how I actually feel about things, how I feel about topics, maybe melee related, but not even melee related, just whatever. Finding my voice through Kadoran, who we've been traveling around together, and I've gotten to know him. He's a lovely person. I enjoy having him by my side as a co-competitor, and hopefully he'll also spark that, because he knows he's very he knows how he feels. He knows how to say what he wants, how he feels. He's very direct, and I think that'll help me become that as well.
It's a pretty killer combo. I'm curious how this all unfolds. Just as someone that obviously has done a podcast with someone else and has talked about it, like you guys being both top 10 players, it is invaluable to just have someone else who gets it, man. Like it is essential. You mentioned talking to Zane, who helped you understand or helped you kind of look at some of these issues you're having as a newly fledged top player, and it's only so much you can get out of like self-talk or general philosophy about life. Like there's a lot you can gain out of just being a better human and stuff, but like we are in this very specific world with very specific problems, and I really encourage you as much as I can to keep on just saying what's on your mind, just sharing exactly what you're going through, and not trying to like fill a content void of like what do the people want. The people don't know what they want. They just want more melee, and you are like the two of you are very unique voices and players and just brains that you put it together. It's gonna be I've not been more excited about another podcast ever in hearing something be announced. You told me this like an hour ago, and I'm absolutely amped to just hear you guys shoot the shit and talk about what you're going through. Although
I appreciate that, man.
Maybe you guys are just gonna do bracket reviews. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. Who knows what we'll talk about? If it's I mean, I'm down to just chop it up with him. We'll definitely be talking about some melee hot topics. We'll definitely be having some discussions, but also, it's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want.
Yeah.
It's all open season.
Yeah. Well, not to bring down the mood a little bit. I would be remiss not to mention the recent news about Golden Guardians Melee and
Of course.
and Radio Melee and all the projects that they had going on kind of moving away. It's definitely another body blow of a year to the scene, and I can imagine that there's got to be some sort of process you have of, like, you have your career, it's at a height, like you are a top player, Jmook, you are doing incredibly well, but Melee is taking these hits, like from Nintendo, from PG, and now Golden Guardians, and I'm sure I'm missing 4 other things. Like, where do you kind of put all this into perspective as you are making a move out to California, cementing a career in Melee, and trying to, like, get your feet on the ground?
I gotta say, it's scary, man. It's scary. Like I said, I don't want to give in to the doubts of, do I have a year left? Is it 2 years, 3 years? I mean, there is no such thing as job security in esports. I will say that.
Sure.
And as we see with Golden Guardians, that's, I think that's a prime example of that, where we really don't know how long things are going to last. But I will say the common theme throughout Melee's history is that we've had so many instances of, is this it? Is this the last one? I mean, look at Rom 1, revival of Melee. Let's revive Melee again. It's dying. Let's come together one last time just to duke it out. And that was in, like, what, 2010?
Yeah.
2010 or so, I believe. And we're here 13 years later, and that was, for some people, they were like, Brawl's out, Melee's dying. Granted, that was a completely different era, and that was nowhere near the level of esports that it is today. These blows that you're talking about are unfortunate, and it sucks that this year, the tournaments, the, like, Melee, the game itself, the competitive, the overall players versus players has been great, but everything else on the side has been suggesting that we're on a small decline. My only thing is that we should just ride out the rest of the year, focus on the things that we do have, take advantage of every single person who has stuck with us, the TOs, the people who are bending over backwards, the volunteers, the staff who still have CRTs in their garage, or still have streaming equipment that they're bringing out of the goodness of their own heart because they love the game enough to sacrifice being a competitor, and they just want to be a little, like a Melee shepherd almost, to just lend themselves to to a cause that that is the Melee community. So I'd say that we'll wait and see. It does suck that obviously Golden Guardians has been a huge source of content, and they've touched so many people. I mean, with PP, Toph, Nun, Zane, Amsa, they really, I want to thank them personally for everything that they try to do and we're going to do for the scene. And hopefully, starting next year, things will start picking up again. I believe that this year has been kind of, we've been having blow after blow, bad news after bad news, but honestly, let's just ride out the year and see how 2024 changes, because it very well could just be another ROM 1 situation where something big happens and suddenly we're back, and suddenly orgs want to get back into it. So I'm trying to look at it more in a positive way, while understanding that, this could die at any possible second, but I really don't want to waste a single day of, being in the position that I'm in, which I definitely did. I definitely did waste a lot of opportunities this year, and I want to make sure that next year I will not let that happen.
Well, that's some pretty I don't know if I don't know how I would judge it, but that's pretty mature of you to say something like that. I don't think that's entirely fair to say you wasted the opportunity. I think there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of expectations put on top players. And where my brain went was about personal responsibility and a bit of, okay, we're starting to see the kind of walls closing in again, not for the first time, but this just we're contracting. There's a sort of melee recession.
Melee recession, yeah, it
and
totally is.
and that's okay. Like any economy, that happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of have to look to ourselves as what can we contribute, and I think that could be a really difficult conversation. I think that time and time again, people in different facets of the community. I'm thinking of TOs. I'm thinking of mid to low level or low attention content creators, people just starting their YouTube channels or what have you, and people who are gunning for top players. Like the first name that comes to mind is Ossify, an incredible player, definitely on the rise, but where, you know, how do you sustain a lifestyle? How do you support yourself financially as you are making this attempt to be the best player? And so from your perspective, I know that you have your own journey, and you mentioned that you were kind of unexpectedly thrown into being a top player with your second place at Genesis 8. But where does personal responsibility start, and what are the limits of it, in your opinion?
The personal responsibility of
like
being a top player for the sake of for Melee's lifespan.
Yeah, so specifically, like, what responsibilities do top players have in keeping the scene afloat and keeping themselves afloat?
I think it's just giving people something to watch. Giving people something to watch, giving people a reason to watch and play the game. You know? COVID and Slippy, like we've been through that era, and now we're kind of like, no, we're out of that era now, and 2022 was the first of that, and then 2023 has kind of been the signs of a recession. But who knows how long this will last? It could be, you know, things could also plummet next year, or it could spark right back up, you know, just like in 2013 after the Doc and Evo. So yeah, I believe as of late, you know, my personal responsibility, I feel that I've been more, you know, I'm starting to understand like what the game needs, and it's kind of why I started getting back into streaming, because, you know, like, it was kind of hard to be a fan of me if I just like wasn't interacting, wasn't engaging as much. And I think that as long as there's a space for people to watch the game that they love and play the game that they love, I think Melee is fine, even if there are no sponsors that want to, you know, keep us afloat. I think the game by itself is fine because the game is so addicting. Like playing like I haven't had the feeling of playing really good Melee is something that I've never been able to replicate in anything, even in music, even in anything performative. The game is it's too fun, man. The game is so fun.
It's too good.
It's fun. It brings people together. I've met all of my friends through it. Sorry to go on a tangent about it, but it's the truth, and I think it's kind of why we've stuck so long, despite all these small recessions and blows to the scene. Yeah, as a top player, I think that it's our job to keep the game live, keep the game on live on air, whether through playing or supporting it, also being a voice. It's also kind of why I'm doing the podcast, because I think that's also healthy for people to have a space, you know, to discuss, and for top players to talk with each other about the current status of the scene, of the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's funny that I'm saying this now, because I was the guy who's like, why, like, people were like, bro, why isn't Jmook streaming? Like, where has he been? Is he did he die? Like, what's up? So it's kind of hypocritical for me to say like, oh, we should be streaming, we should be up there, you know, when I'm just recently like starting to find my footing again. But I do still agree with that. I think that it's our job to use position. Like we're sponsored. Not many people are sponsored. That's a privilege in of itself. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's tough out here though. So again, give yourself a little a break. Give yourself a bit of a pass for for that period. That shit's tough.
Of course.
Yeah, dude. So Melee at large, we talked about your early career. We talked about your current career. I mean, we kind of covered it all. I do have some other questions here about like flow state, about what books you've read, about pride and what it takes to play well. I kind of want to just hear like if you could just take a moment, think about the last couple weeks, think about how you've been like what themes you've been coming back to yourself. Like what have you been struggling with? This could be a life thing, this could be with moving, this could be with Melee. Like what's on your mind that you don't have answered, that you can't be sure about yet, that you're still untangling? What's going on?
I guess the recent struggle, which I've been improving on as of late, has been like, can I sustain myself? You know, I'm moving out. I'm gonna be on my own. I want to make sure that I'm as self-sufficient as possible when that does happen. And so part of that has been establishing routines, the same routines I've always had with, the posture, the bed, like blah blah blah, all that. I've been working out again. I've been taking better care of myself, got on a good sleep schedule, and I think the theme of why I'm like coming back is like I really, as selfish as this sound, well, it's not selfish, but I believe everyone has to put themselves first, especially their health, because in my low state when I'm just when literally getting out of bed was winning the day over the summer. I was in a very dark place, probably the lowest I've ever been in my life. And kind of just putting my health as a priority. And all I know is that when I'm healthy, when I'm taking good care of myself, there's nothing that is stopping me. Not even in a winning in a video game kind of way, but just like winning for other people, being someone that's actually like improving their surroundings and making meaning out of things that should be meaningful. So yeah, I think as of late I've been getting back in my routines. I'm working out, I'm meditating, I'm reading, I'm journaling, focusing. My diet's been better. I've been sleeping so well. Normally it takes hours for me to fall asleep, but now I go to bed, I take a hot shower, and I'm out like a light, which is such a huge blessing. To just just to be healthy and just feel good about yourself, because if you feel good about yourself, there's nothing holding you back from changing things around you.
I love to hear it. I'm ready to end on that, but then you know what? There's one more thing, man.
What's one more thing?
We got to talk about France. We got to talk about the set with Moki, the controller.
I thought you had me. Thought I was gonna sneak away.
I didn't.
Thanks for the pod.
No,
I appreciate you, JD.
I don't know. Look,
right, so,
I don't know what's been said.
Let's go for it. Yeah, pick my brain or my nose.
I mean, what are you ready to talk about? Look. I haven't been. I did record the Discord's live reaction to it. So
oh really?
Yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know shit was gonna go down like that. I just started from the beginning of the set.
You recorded the
audio.
You recorded
just the
okay.
The audio of us just like watching, and we were like, dude, I think Moki should win. Like, not gonna lie, we were kind of on Moki's side. There's a bit of time. We're still your boy. We're not against you, but like that is a tough spot to be in for him.
Of course. And I agree with all of you on that. It definitely, that should have been 3-1 losers finals, GG's for sure. But that being said, I totally understand the hesitation, because the TOs are just, throughout the whole weekend there were so many setbacks. The venue that like 2 days before the main venue, the owners were essentially saying, hey, you can't host the tournament in this room. You have to do it in like these separate rooms. And that was a huge, that was such a huge inconvenience for them. So they pulled it together, and they were apologizing to us all weekend. But we were like, Cody and I, all the top players, we were just saying like, hey, we're just so grateful to be here, to be in France, to travel, and and play this game. Like, we're just thankful that you guys were able to make do with what you had, which is kind of like European Melee in a nutshell. Like, they get what, 2 events a year? They get fits, and they get Arkham Melee, and when they show up, they show up. So it's like, out of respect for that, like, I'm just so appreciative for them to like have us there, that it sucks when they have to make tough decisions, because I've made connections with the EU scene. I've gotten to know them pretty well. I'm pretty close with a lot of them as friends, as people, and I totally understand why they were hesitant to kind of put down the hammer and say no, you have to forfeit the game. But first off, I want to say shout outs to Moki, because Moki is an absolute sweetheart for that. He totally did not have to wait, bro. I sprinted. I haven't. Actually that set was kind of why I started running again, because bro, I sprinted. So my hotel was like, it was like a 4 or 5 minute walk, but bro, I was sprinting in fucking jeans and boots. I was gassed when I got there. I was sweating. I was wiping my forehead in between down throws, and wiping my hands in between down throws because I was sweating so bad. But like, dude, Moki's a saint for that, and clearly, like, I feel terrible for him, because it's a lose-lose situation. It's like, okay, do I let him get his spare, come back and play on a spare controller with the crowd, who's and like, I was, they definitely were rooting for me over him, but it was also because, Moki's were like, I was friends with a lot of them. I got to know them throughout the weekend. We hung out. They just simply wanted to see me do well, and they were supporting that. But it was a lose-lose for him, because it's like, either I let him back and then have them cheer for me because I'm on a spare sweating my ass off, or do I put my foot down and play it by the rules and say, no, you have to forfeit and look like the asshole. And personally, I don't think, I tweeted about this, but that decision should not be up to the players. It's definitely up to the TOs. I don't think any other sport would allow such a thing to happen, in my opinion. Maybe there are exceptions, but yeah, so he was put in a lose-lose situation. Unfortunately, and with all due respect to him, like, on my end, I was like, I showed up, and I didn't care that it was like, a European, like, like a small, like, super regional / major. Like, I wanted to win. Like, I took that very seriously, and I was super bummed, because I wanted to show up and I wanted to compete. And once again, I show up to Europe, and in the heat of the moment, my controller just somehow it melted. Like, and I swear to God, my controller is my that fob, which I have not touched since flying back. I'm using an OEM from Spark. Shout out to Spark. Highly recommend him and his OEMs. Feels great. But the 2 times my controller has broken has been in Grand Finals of FET and Losers Finals of Arkham Melee. Both top 3 bracket matches. So I would say on average I don't have super bad luck, but I'd say that's some shitty luck, right? To just have it could have gone out in friendlies, it could have malfunctioned like during hand warmers, but for that to happen in grand finals, like to have in top 3 of 2 different big events, that was kind of the last straw. Where I was like, okay, I just don't want to mess around with this. And personally, I mean, Zane agrees too. Like, I don't think Sheik and Marth needs, I don't think we need fobs, dude. I think we're fine with OEMs. Like, so far, like, I was playing on the spare. Granted, I was not warmed up on it at all, but as I was playing, I was like, holy shit, this controller just feels better. Like, I feel like I can do what I want on this controller. So, yeah, with the whole rule set thing, me personally, I think there should be, I don't know if there's anything set in stone, and like I said, I've already tweeted about this, but I believe that if a controller malfunctions, the game so it can be, I mean, I leave this up to the people who, come together to, make rule sets, but if a controller malfunctions, you either forfeit the game or you replay the game with like you lose the stock, like you forfeit the stock, because realistically a controller malfunction only affects one stock of a match, unless it takes 10 or so minutes, like it did for me at Arkham Melee. So yeah, if the controller malfunctions, you forfeit the game or a stock into the next one. You need to have a spare. If you don't have a spare, you need to have one within 5 minutes, or it's your bye-bye. In my personal opinion, I know it's kind of a flexible, vague aspect of the rule, but I think that's pretty reasonable. I would say that 5 minutes is like it's a solid amount of time for if you like have your spare. It's like in your bag somewhere. Obviously, it's not enough time to go back to your hotel room and sprint. But I do think that we need some sort of rule and set so that it's not so that Moki or anyone has to, be in a lose-lose position like that.
Oh, this was the easiest podcast of my life, man. This was the easiest podcast I've ever done.
Got you, homie.
Yeah, you are ready to host your own for sure.
Ready to host? Yeah.
Dude, I got nothing else.
No? And let's talk about you, mister. I mean, for those who don't know, I don't know if you guys knew, but this guy's pretty funny.
Okay, man. Okay, I don't know where you're going. I mean, hey, if you want to have me on your podcast, I think there's one that's
we got some slots.
I'm sure you do. You put me in between Zane and Cody. I'm sure Poon Slayer will be a hot topic. You'll get hundreds of views. Look, I have plenty of time on my own pod to talk about myself. That's not for your time. I do want to ask anything we left out, anything you want to kind of say to the people that are listening or to your fans, or just leave us off. What do you got on your mind?
To those who are listening right now and made it towards the end, yo, thank you. Like, thanks for listening to me, to us talking about Melee and my journey. Oh, my voice is fucking cracking. You can leave that in. You can leave that in. Yep, leave it in. Mm-hmm. This is a raw, uncut footage, but honestly, man, I think we covered exactly what I wanted to talk about, and I appreciate you taking time to make this a podcast where we're covering all the bases. And so yeah, thank you to all the listeners from the Wannabes. I appreciate you all tuning in. Shout out to my fans. Thank you all for sticking with me. Shout out to FlyQuest, my friends, my family. Love you all. I hope to only up from here, man. I mean, I think I'm finally, this is the first time I believe since June I think June where I actually feel like I'm taking a step in a better direction. So I thank you guys for being patient with me, and hopefully after this podcast I'll start up another one and hope to give back in full force.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, I'll see you in Discord, and
yeah, you trying to keep playing? What do you have to?
We'll talk, man. Let's end this. Let's end this.
All right.
Later.